My name is Omar Hassan. I'm 23 years old and I live in Toronto now, but that's not where my story begins. I was born and raised in Amman, Jordan, in a world where tradition defined identity and religion was not a choice, but a duty. For most of my life, I carried the expectations of my family, my community, and my faith on my shoulders like a burden I could never put down. But something happened, a moment, an encounter, a revelation that changed my life completely. What I'm about to share with you is not just a story, it's a journey through fear, doubt, pain, and finally, to peace. A peace I never knew was possible. And I want you to hear it from me, because I know there are people out there feeling just like I did, alone, anxious, desperate to be enough. This is for you. I grew up in a small apartment tucked into the busy heart of Amman, where the sounds of the market mixed with the daily call to prayer, and where religion was a thread woven through every moment of life. My parents were loving but traditional, and I was their only child, their one chance to fulfill the dreams they had shelved for themselves. My father, Hassan, worked long hours as a taxi driver, his voice always booming, always commanding. He wanted me to be better than him, to be an engineer, a man of respect. But underneath his ambition was a steel-hard demand: obedience, discipline, devotion, not just to the family, but to Islam. My mother, Ila, was gentle, softer, but equally committed to the faith. Every morning before the sun rose, she'd gently wake me for dawn prayer, whispering words of encouragement laced with worry. To them, religion was life itself, and to them, I was its future. From the time I was old enough to speak, I was told who I had to be. I had to be a good Muslim. I had to memorize the Quran. I had to pray 5 times a day without fail. I had to avoid sin, avoid shame, avoid weakness. And I tried. I really did. I wore the right clothes, said the right words, did everything I was supposed to. But inside, I was crumbling. There was a quiet fear that never left me. The fear of failure, the fear of hell. The fear that no matter how hard I tried, it would never be enough. My prayers felt empty. My fasting felt mechanical. I began to wonder if faith was supposed to feel like fear. I didn't dare speak those thoughts out loud. In my world, doubt wasn't just dangerous, it was disgraceful. At school and university, things didn't get better. If anything, they got worse. The pressure to succeed academically was crushing. I was studying engineering just like my father wanted. Every test felt like a final judgment. Every grade, a verdict on my worth. And on top of it all was the weight of religion. If I failed, I wasn't just disappointing my parents. I was dishonoring my God. The anxiety was constant, a hum in the background of every day. And slowly I began to feel like I was fading. Like I wasn't a person anymore, just a vessel carrying everyone else's expectations. At night I'd lie awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, asking questions I wasn't allowed to ask. Does God see me? Does he even care? Am I doing this right? Why do I feel so alone? I started to pull away, not from my family, not from school, but from myself. I stopped laughing. I stopped feeling excited about anything. Even food lost its taste. I'd sit with my friends, pretending to be fine, while inside I was unraveling. My best friend Yusuf, carefree and rebellious, noticed. "You worry too much," he'd say with a grin, handing me a bottle of soda outside the engineering building. "God's not going to punish you for missing one prayer." I'd smile, but the smile never reached my eyes. I didn't want excuses. I wanted answers, and the silence inside me was becoming unbearable. That silence was louder than any call to prayer. I was too afraid to be honest with anyone, especially my parents. They loved me, but their love was conditional. Conditional on obedience. Conditional on faith. I remember one evening after missing a prayer because of a study session, my father's voice thundered through the hallway. "You think Allah won't notice? You think he won't judge you?" I nodded silently, guilt pounding in my chest like a drum. I didn't want to be a bad son. I didn't want to be a bad Muslim. But I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, I didn't believe anymore. And I hated myself for it. There was no safe place for me. The mosque was filled with judgment. The university was filled with chaos. My home was filled with expectations. I began to isolate myself, locking my door more often, pretending to study while staring blankly at my textbooks. I told myself this was just a phase, that I'd find my way back. But the truth was, I wasn't lost. I was awakening. Something inside me was beginning to crack open, and that crack would eventually become a door I never expected to walk through. But once I did, nothing would ever be the same. Looking back, I realize how many people live just like I did, trapped between devotion and despair. If you're reading this and your heart feels heavy, I want you to know something. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And your questions are not a sin. They're the beginning of something beautiful, something real. I didn't know it then, but the doubts I feared were the seeds of the truth I would one day discover. And the fear that kept me up at night? It was actually grace, preparing me for the moment that would change everything. And that moment was coming. I remember the first time I noticed something different. It was during a class on structural mechanics, a topic I normally found boring but necessary. I was sitting in the back, half listening to the professor, my notebook open but untouched. My mind wasn't in that room. It was drowning in questions I couldn't answer. That's when I noticed her. A quiet girl named Miriam, always sitting 2 rows in front of me. She wore a small silver cross necklace, subtle but undeniable. In Jordan, you didn't often see Christians openly expressing their faith. Some whispered about her behind her back, but there was something about her. She carried herself with a calmness that stood out in a room full of stressed students. That day, when class ended, I must have looked worse than usual. She turned around, gave me a gentle smile and said, "God sees your heart." I didn't know what to say. I mumbled a thank you and walked away, but her words followed me like a shadow. That night I lay in bed replaying that phrase over and over. God sees your heart. Not your actions, not your rituals. Your heart. It felt foreign, almost wrong, but also comforting. I grabbed my phone and typed the phrase into a search bar. What I found shocked me. It wasn't a Quranic verse. It was from the Bible, 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord looks at the heart. I sat up, staring at the screen. Why did that verse speak to me more than anything I'd read in years? I knew if my father saw what I was doing, there'd be consequences. Even looking at a Bible verse was dangerous. But I couldn't stop. It was like a seed had been planted, and now it was growing, pushing through all the fear and tradition. I felt torn between 2 worlds, one I'd known my whole life and one I was just beginning to see. In the days that followed, I couldn't focus. I'd go to class, but my mind was always elsewhere. I started reading more verses from the Bible in secret. I didn't tell anyone. Not Yusuf, not my professors, definitely not my parents. But every verse seemed to reach into my chest and touch a place that had been numb for years. There was a gentleness in Jesus' words, a promise of rest, of love, of grace, not fear, and yet I still fought it. I told myself I was just curious, that I'd go back to Islam soon, that I just needed to get through the semester. But deep down, I knew something irreversible had started. I was beginning to hope, and hope was dangerous. One afternoon, on my way home from university, I collapsed. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't slept. I was fasting for one of the extra holy days my father believed would earn us more favor with Allah. The heat was unbearable, and my mind was spinning with anxiety about an upcoming exam. I remember the exact moment my knees gave out. The pavement hit me hard, my head slamming against concrete. People shouted, tried to help, but their voices were muffled, like I was underwater. Then everything went dark. I thought I was dying, and I was terrified. Not of death, but of what came after. I hadn't done enough. I hadn't prayed enough. I had doubted. I had read the Bible. Surely I was going to hell. What I saw next was not a dream. It wasn't imagination. I was somewhere else, somewhere real. It was dark, filled with smoke, the air choking me. I saw fire. I heard screams. I felt heat unlike anything I'd ever known. And I saw people I recognized, an imam from my mosque, people from my neighborhood. And then I saw myself, burning, screaming. I never found peace, my voice cried out from the flames. It was the most horrifying moment of my life. But even in that terror, a light appeared, gentle at first, like a flicker, then growing stronger, pushing the darkness back. A figure walked toward me, clothed in white, glowing. I knew who it was, even before he spoke. It was Jesus. He looked at me with eyes that didn't condemn me, but saw everything. My fear, my doubt, my exhaustion. And he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." I trembled. I told him I was Muslim, that this couldn't be happening. But he stepped closer, showed me his scars, and said, "I died for you, Omar. I want to give you peace." In that moment, I broke. All my defenses shattered. I sobbed, not because of fear, but because for the first time in my life, I felt loved without conditions. Not for what I did, not for how well I performed, just loved, completely. I didn't want to leave that place. Suddenly we were in a garden, a beautiful, peaceful place. Flowers in every color, a stream flowing nearby. I felt like I was in paradise. Jesus walked with me. He showed me my grandfather, who I'd always thought was a devout Muslim, but Jesus told me he had believed in him in secret before he died. My grandfather smiled, waved, and I wept. Then Jesus showed me my life, the prayers, the fasting, the fear, and he said something I'll never forget. "Your works cannot save you, Omar. Only my grace can." He showed me two futures, one where I continued on my current path and ended up back in hell, and one where I followed him, found peace, and helped others do the same. "Come to me, all who are weary," he said, "and I will give you rest." And I said, "Yes, I'll follow you." When I woke up in the hospital, my head pounding and machines beeping around me, my mother was crying beside me. "Thank God," she whispered. I looked into her eyes and said, "Jesus saved me, Mama." She froze. Everything changed in that moment. I told her everything about the vision, about the pain, about the peace. She didn't understand. She was scared. She warned me to keep quiet. "Your father will be furious," she whispered. But I couldn't go back. I had seen the truth. I had experienced a love too real to ignore. I knew that following Jesus would cost me everything, my family, my safety, my identity. But I also knew it would give me what I'd been searching for my entire life, peace. After I returned home from the hospital, everything felt different. I wasn't just recovering physically. I was carrying something sacred, something secret. I began reading the Bible in the quiet of my room, hiding the app on my phone, locking the door at night, whispering prayers to Jesus under my breath. My heart was changing. I felt lighter, more alive. But I was also terrified. I knew I was walking a dangerous line. My father started noticing. He'd knock on my door and ask why I wasn't going to the mosque. I'd make excuses, exams, headaches, tiredness, but I could see the suspicion growing in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. My mother would watch me during dinner, her eyes filled with questions she was too afraid to ask. I wasn't the same Omar anymore, and I knew the day would come when I could no longer hide it. That day came sooner than I expected. One afternoon, while I was in the bathroom, I left my phone on my bed, open to a Bible passage. My father walked into my room to grab something, and he saw it. When I came out, he was standing there holding my phone, his face pale with fury. "What is this?" he demanded. "A Christian app. Are you turning away from Islam?" My heart dropped into my stomach. I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. "Papa," I said quietly. "I found the truth. Jesus is the way. He gave me peace." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew nothing would be the same. My father's face twisted in rage. He threw the phone on the floor, cracking the screen. "You're an apostate," he shouted. "You'll bring shame on this family." My mother rushed in, trying to calm him, but it was no use. The damage was done. For days, the house was filled with tension. My father stopped speaking to me. My mother cried behind closed doors. Neighbors began whispering. I could feel the walls closing in. I started meeting Miriam in secret again, at a park near the university, away from the judgment and fear. She was the only person who understood what I was going through. I told her everything, and she shared her own story. How she had faced rejection, too, when she became a Christian. "You're not alone," she told me. "Jesus is with you." She gave me a small Bible, one I could hide easily. "Keep reading. Keep praying," she said. Her support was a lifeline. But the pressure at home was becoming unbearable. Every day felt like walking through a minefield. My father was watching my every move. The community was beginning to turn against me. I knew I couldn't stay much longer. Then something unexpected happened. I received an email from my university. I had been awarded a full scholarship to study engineering in Canada at the University of Toronto. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. A full scholarship, a chance to start over, to follow Jesus without fear, to live in freedom. It felt like a sign, a door opened by God Himself. I ran to tell my parents, hoping, just hoping, that they would see this as good news. But when I told them, their faces turned to stone. "Canada?" my father repeated. "No, you're not going. You'll lose your faith. You'll disgrace us even more." My mother wept. "Please don't go," she begged. "You're already changing. We'll lose you completely." I tried to explain, to reassure them, but nothing I said mattered. My father stood up and said, "If you go, you're not my son anymore." After that, things escalated quickly. My father went to the mosque that night. When he came back, he was even angrier. "People are talking, Omar," he said. "The leaders know. They're watching you. You're a disgrace." The fear in his voice wasn't just about me. It was about reputation, shame, dishonor. In our community, being labeled an apostate wasn't just spiritual. It was social suicide. It could be dangerous. I saw it in the eyes of the mosque leaders when I walked past them, whispering, staring, judging. I realized something then. I wasn't safe. Not just emotionally, but physically. If I stayed, I could be hurt. I could be silenced. And worst of all, I could be forced to live a lie. I went to my room, locked the door, and prayed, "Jesus, help me. Give me strength." And in the silence, I felt His peace again. That unmistakable peace. The day I left for Canada was the hardest day of my life. I packed my small bag quietly, hiding the Bible Miriam gave me inside a pair of socks. My mother helped me, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand this Jesus you talk about," she whispered, "but I see something different in you. You're not afraid anymore. I just want you to be safe." I hugged her, sobbing. "I love you, Mama," I said. "Jesus is with me." My father refused to look at me. He sat on the couch, arms crossed, face like stone. I waited at the door, hoping he would say something, anything. But he didn't. When I walked out, I knew I might never see him again. At the airport, I stood alone, watching families embrace, whispering goodbye. I kept looking over my shoulder, hoping my parents would appear, but they never did. Landing in Toronto was like stepping into another world. The air was cold, sharp, clean. The streets were wide. The people, unfamiliar. I took a taxi to campus, staring out the window in silence. When I reached my dorm, I sat on the bed, my bag at my feet, and let the silence wash over me. For the first time, I didn't have to hide. I could follow Jesus openly. I began reading my Bible every day, watching Christian videos, listening to worship music. I found a church. I found community. I found freedom. I was still grieving. I still missed my family, but I was no longer lost. I was found, and I knew why I had to leave. I didn't leave because I stopped loving my parents. I left because I finally found the one who loved me first, who saw my heart, who gave me peace I never knew existed. And now, I want to share that peace with the world. My journey wasn't easy. I lost the comfort of home, the approval of my father, the safety of familiarity, but I gained something infinitely greater: truth, freedom, peace. I met Jesus in the midst of my fear and anxiety, and He gave me a love I could never earn and a purpose I never imagined. I no longer live to prove my worth. I live to follow the one who already proved His love for me on the cross. And if you've felt what I felt, emptiness, pressure, confusion, then you don't have to stay there. There is more. There is hope. His name is Jesus. Maybe you're watching this and you've been hiding your doubts. Maybe you're performing a faith that's only bringing you fear. Maybe deep down you're asking the same questions I did. I want to tell you, Jesus sees your heart. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to come to Him. He's not afraid of your questions. He's not waiting to punish you. He's waiting to hold you, to heal you, to save you, just like He did for me. If this story spoke to you, don't let it end here. This is just the beginning. I want to invite you right now to say yes to Jesus. Talk to Him. Ask Him to show you the truth. Pick up a Bible. Start reading the Gospel of John. Let Him speak to you like He spoke to me. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. And you are deeply loved. And if you've already decided to follow Jesus but you're walking through rejection or fear like I did, stay strong. He is worth it. Eternity is worth it. Keep going, keep believing, and know that I'm standing with you. There is a family of believers all over the world who have walked this same path, and we are here for you. Don't let this testimony stay in the shadows. If you believe others need to hear this, share this video. Comment below with your story or your questions. I read every single one. Subscribe to this channel for more testimonies, truth, and encouragement as you grow in faith. And above all else, follow Jesus with everything you are, with every step you take. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And He's calling you right now. You have a choice, just like I did. You can keep living in fear, in doubt, in pressure, or you can step into freedom, into peace, into Jesus. Don't wait. Don't settle. Don't stay silent. If you're ready to follow Him, say it out loud. Jesus, I give you my life. That simple prayer changed everything for me, and it can for you too. Thank you for walking through my story with me. It means more than you know. I may not know your name, but I've prayed for everyone who would hear this message. I care about you. I see you. And I believe God brought you here for a reason. So stay close. Stay connected. And remember, this isn't goodbye. This is the beginning of something eternal. See you in the next video. And until then, keep seeking, keep asking, and keep following the voice of truth. Jesus loves you, and so do I.